The voices carried through the ventilation shaft above David Reeves's head. He had been checking cargo manifests in the storage bay when the conversation started, and now he stood frozen, listening to every word. "Humans are insane," the first voice said. It belonged to Ambassador Quillen, a bird-like alien with silver feathers and a sharp beak. They actively seek out the most dangerous creatures on their planet and bring them into their homes. "I heard about that," another voice replied. This one was deeper, belonging to a Rinnal trade representative. They call them pets, as if a killing machine can be domesticated through affection. David pressed himself against the wall, hidden behind a stack of supply crates. The diplomatic reception was happening one level above him, in the main hall of Harmony 7 Station. He had avoided the event, preferring the quiet of the cargo bays to the awkward small talk that always happened when different species gathered. "It gets worse," Quillen continued. "Last month, a human colony on the Outer Rim requested permission to import thornback cats. Do you know what those are?" "Apex predators," a third voice said. "Female probably," another Quillen, "from Earth's mountain regions. They can grow to 300 kilograms and have retractable spikes along their spines. The colonists wanted them as companions for their children." Silence followed this statement. Then all three aliens made sounds of disbelief. "The Council denied the request, obviously," Quillen said. "But this is becoming a serious problem. Humans are spreading across the galaxy, and they are bringing their death wish with them. They keep Fangari wolves, scalowing serpents, even prowlers. These are creatures that would kill most sentient species without hesitation." David felt his jaw tighten. He had heard this before in 100 different ways. Humans were reckless. Humans did not understand proper safety protocols. Humans had broken survival instincts. "Earth is classified as a Category 9 death world," the female voice said. "The highest danger rating possible. The humans evolved alongside creatures that hunted them, poisoned them, and killed them in countless ways. This damaged something in their psychology. They do not fear things they should fear. Fear keeps species alive," the Rinnal agreed. "It is the foundation of intelligent survival. Humans seem to have lost this critical instinct." "Not lost," Quillen corrected. "Replaced. They replaced fear with something they call curiosity. They see a creature with teeth like knives and think, can I touch it? Can I teach it tricks? Can I let it sleep in my dwelling?" The others made sounds of disgust and confusion. "There is a movement building in the Council," Quillen continued. His voice dropped lower and David had to strain to hear. "Several ambassadors are proposing new restrictions. Humans would be banned from transporting any non-domesticated Earth creatures between systems. Some are even suggesting humans should not be allowed to keep predators at all, anywhere in galactic space." "That seems extreme," the Rinnal said, though he did not sound convinced. "Is it?" the female asked. 3 weeks ago, a human transport ship docked at Station Meridian. The crew had a creature called a bear. A juvenile, they claimed. Harmless, they said. It broke containment during a cargo transfer and wandered into the station's central market. 47 civilians were treated for panic attacks. 2 Quillens had cardiac episodes from the stress. "Did the bear attack anyone?" the Rinnal asked. "That is not the point," Quillen snapped. "The potential for disaster was enormous. The humans were fined, but it should have been criminal charges. These creatures do not belong in civilized space." David's communication device buzzed against his hip. He pulled it out carefully, keeping the movement silent. The screen showed an urgent message from his ship's automated systems. Environmental controls were failing in the main cabin, temperature dropping rapidly, oxygen mixture becoming unstable. His heart rate spiked. The cargo could survive environmental fluctuations. He could not say the same for Ash. David moved quickly through the storage bay, leaving the diplomatic voices behind. He took the service corridors, avoiding the main pathways where station visitors gathered. Other aliens stepped aside when they saw him coming, pressing themselves against the walls. Some whispered as he passed. Others just stared. He had been on Harmony 7 for 3 days, waiting for cargo clearances and transport permits. In that time, word had spread about his ship's passenger. Station security had flagged his vessel. Other docked crews avoided the berth next to his. Even the automated refueling system seemed to take longer when servicing his ship. The docking bay was quiet when David arrived. His vessel, the Steadfast Runner, sat in berth 17. It was a small freight hauler, built for long-distance transport rather than comfort or speed. The hull was scarred from years of use, and one of the engine housings had been patched with mismatched metal plates. But it was his, and it was home. David climbed the access ramp and entered through the main airlock. The temperature inside had dropped 10 degrees. His breath misted in the air. The control panel showed multiple system alerts, all related to life support. "Ash," he called out. A low sound came from the sleeping cabin. Not quite a growl, not quite a whine. It was the sound Ash made when something was wrong, but she did not know what to do about it. David moved through the narrow corridor to the cabin. Ash was there, curled on the bed that took up most of the small room. She was massive, easily 200 kilograms of muscle and bone. Her fur was dark gray, almost black in the dim emergency lighting. A ridge of spines ran along her back, lying flat against her body in a sign of distress. Her eyes, golden and intelligent, tracked David as he entered. "It's okay," David said softly. "I'm here. We will fix this." Ash made the sound again. She did not move from the bed, but her tail twitched once. David returned to the control panel and ran diagnostics. The system failure was not random. Someone had accessed the environmental controls remotely and changed the settings. The alterations were subtle enough to avoid triggering immediate alarms, but severe enough to cause problems within hours. Sabotage. David's hands moved quickly across the controls, overriding the corrupted settings and restoring normal operations. Warm air began flowing through the vents. The oxygen mixture stabilized. Within minutes, the temperature started climbing back to normal levels. He found the access logs buried in the system files. Someone had used a station maintenance code to enter his ship's network. The timestamp showed it had happened while he was checking cargo manifests in the storage bay. While he was listening to aliens discuss how dangerous and irresponsible humans were, David sat down in the pilot's chair and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, Station Security Chief Torvin was scheduled to inspect the steadfast runner. Torvin was a Quillen like Ambassador Quillen. He had already made his opinion about Ash very clear during their first meeting. The inspection was mandatory for all vessels carrying what the station classified as hazardous biological cargo. Torvin wanted a reason to ground the ship. Someone had just tried to give him one. David felt Ash's presence before he heard her. She moved silently despite her size, padding down the corridor on massive paws. She pressed her head against his shoulder, and he reached up to scratch behind her ears. Her fur was coarse but warm. The spines along her back had relaxed, lying smooth again. "Someone wants us gone," David said quietly. "They want to prove humans cannot be trusted with creatures like you," Ash huffed, a sound that might have been agreement or just contentment at the scratching. David had found Ash 2 years ago on a mining station in the Outer Territories. She had been locked in a cage barely large enough to hold her, beaten and starving. The cage had been in the back room of what the locals called an entertainment venue. Really, it was a fighting ring where criminals forced captured creatures to battle for gambling profits. Ash had killed 3 men when David opened her cage. Not because she was vicious, but because she was terrified and defending herself. David had stood between her and the exit, hands raised, speaking in a calm voice while she decided whether to kill him too or trust him. She had chosen trust, and David had spent every day since then proving that choice was right. Now someone wanted to take that away. Wanted to prove that humans and creatures like Ash could not coexist. Wanted to use fear and prejudice to write laws that would separate them forever. David's communication device buzzed again. This time it was a message from the station administration. The inspection had been moved forward. Torvin would arrive in 6 hours, at the start of the next duty cycle. He would be bringing a full security team. Ash sensed David's tension and pressed closer. He wrapped an arm around her neck, feeling the steady rhythm of her breathing. "They think you are a monster," David said. "They think I'm crazy for trusting you." Ash made a soft sound in her throat, almost like a purr. "We will show them," David continued. "Tomorrow we will show them what trust really looks like." But even as he said the words, David wondered if it would be enough. The galaxy had already made up its mind about humans and their predators. Changing that would take more than words or demonstrations. It would take proof that could not be ignored or explained away. David just hoped that when the moment came, he and Ash would be ready. David spent the night preparing. He cleaned every surface of the steadfast runner until the metal gleamed under the overhead lights. He organized his documentation, making sure every permit and certificate was in perfect order. He checked Ash's health records, her training logs, and the behavioral assessments he had been filing since the day he rescued her. Ash watched him work with patient eyes. She understood something important was happening, even if she could not know the details. That was the thing about nightmares that most aliens refused to accept. They were intelligent. Not human-level intelligent, but far more aware than people gave them credit for. Ash could read David's moods better than most humans could. She knew when he was happy, when he was worried, and when he needed her to be calm and controlled. At dawn cycle, a knock sounded at the airlock. David took a deep breath and opened the door. Station Security Chief Torvin stood at the base of the access ramp. He was tall for a Quillen, with deep blue feathers and a sharp hooked beak. Behind him stood 6 security officers, all armed with tranquilizer weapons. The weapons were large, designed to take down something much bigger than a person. Next to Torvin was a female Quillen wearing the white coat of a scientific researcher. She carried a data tablet and looked nervous. "David Reeves," Torvin said formally. "This is Dr. Warren. She is a xenobiologist specializing in dangerous fauna. She will be conducting the behavioral assessment of your creature." "Her name is Ash," David said quietly. "The creature's name is irrelevant," Torvin replied. "We are here to determine if it poses a threat to station safety. You will comply with all instructions, or we will sedate the creature and conduct the inspection without your cooperation." David's hands clenched at his sides, but he kept his voice calm. "Ash has been sedated before, back when she was in the fighting rings. It traumatizes her. She wakes up terrified and aggressive because she associates sedation with pain and captivity." "That is not my concern," Torvin said. "Station protocol requires all Category 9 fauna to be restrained during inspections. No exceptions." "Chief Torvin," Dr. Warren spoke up. Her voice was soft but clear. "If I may suggest an alternative?" Torvin turned his head sharply. "Doctor, I would like to observe the creature in its natural state," Wren said. "Sedation would compromise the behavioral data. If Mr. Reeves is confident he can maintain control, I believe we should allow it." "The risk is substantial," Torvin said. "All valuable research involves risk," Wren countered. "I have reviewed Mr. Reeves's documentation. His training logs are thorough and professional. The creature has shown no aggressive incidents in 2 years of human custody. I would like to see this bond in action before we make judgments about its danger level." Torvin's feathers ruffled, a sign of irritation. But he nodded slowly. "Very well. But at the first sign of aggression, we sedate immediately." "Understood?" "Understood," David said. They entered the ship. The security officers moved carefully, weapons held ready but not aimed. Dr. Warren walked beside David, her eyes taking in every detail of the ship's interior. "Your vessel is very clean," she observed. "Ash sheds," David said. "If I did not clean regularly, there would be fur everywhere." "The creature lives inside the ship with you?" Warren asked. "Not in a containment area. Nightmares are pack animals," David explained. "Isolation causes them psychological stress. Ash needs social contact to stay healthy. She needs to be part of a family unit." "And you are her family unit," Warren said. It was not a question. "I am her pack," David agreed. They reached the sleeping cabin. Ash was lying on the bed exactly where David had left her. He had asked her to stay there during the inspection, and she had obeyed without question. When she saw the strangers, her eyes narrowed and her spines began to rise. "Easy," David said softly. "These people are not a threat. Just visitors. You know what to do." Ash's spines lowered slowly. She remained on the bed, but her posture relaxed slightly. Her eyes never left the security officers and their weapons. "Remarkable," Warren whispered. She was typing rapidly on her data tablet. The creature responded to verbal commands and emotional cues. There was clear recognition of your authority. "It is trained, nothing more," Torvin said. But his voice was uncertain. "May I observe more closely?" Warren asked David. "As long as you move slowly and keep your hands visible," David said. "Ash was abused before I found her." Fast movements and hidden hands trigger her defensive instincts. Wren approached the bed carefully. One of the security officers moved forward as if to follow, and Ash's head swung toward him instantly. Her lips pulled back, showing teeth as long as fingers. A low growl rumbled in her chest. "Officer, stay back," David said sharply. Then to Ash, "No, these are visitors. They are not threats unless they act like threats. Calm." The growl stopped. Ash's mouth closed. But she continued watching the officer with intense focus. The creature differentiated between the doctor and the armed officer. Wren said, her voice filled with wonder. It recognized the weapon as a potential threat and responded appropriately. This is not simple training. This is genuine threat assessment. Night Maws are survivors, David said. They have to be smart to live in Earth's wilderness. Ash can tell the difference between someone who is curious and someone who is dangerous. Can it perform commands? Torvin asked. His tone was skeptical. She can, David said. Ash, down. Ash slid off the bed and lay flat on the floor, her head on her paws. Stay. Ash remained motionless. David walked across the cabin to the storage locker and pulled out a small rubber ball. He held it up so Ash could see it, then threw it down the corridor toward the main cabin. Fetch. Ash was on her feet instantly, moving with surprising speed for her size. She disappeared down the corridor. Seconds later, she returned with the ball carefully held in her jaws. She stopped in front of David and sat waiting. Drop it. The ball fell to the floor. David picked it up and scratched Ash behind the ears. Good girl. The security officers were staring. Even Torvin looked surprised. Dr. Wren was typing so fast her fingers were blurring. This is unprecedented, Wren said. I have studied dozens of species from high-danger worlds. None have shown this level of cooperation with handlers outside their own species. The creature is not just obeying commands. It is engaging in complex communication. These parlor tricks prove nothing, Torvin said, but his voice lacked conviction. We need to test the creature under stress conditions. Before David could respond, one of the security officers shifted his weight. His boot scraped against the metal floor with a sharp sound. The officer had been standing tense and nervous for several minutes, and his arm moved toward his tranquilizer weapon without conscious thought. Ash reacted instantly. Her body coiled like a spring. Her spine shot upright, each one as long as a human hand. Her muscles tensed, and her eyes locked onto the officer with predatory focus. The growl that came from her throat was deep and terrifying, a sound that spoke of ancient hunts and primal violence. The officer froze. His face went pale. His hand was halfway to his weapon, but he seemed unable to complete the movement. Nobody move, David said. His voice was calm but carried absolute authority. He stepped between Ash and the security officers, putting his own body in the line of potential attack. He raised one hand, palm out, toward Ash. Stop, he said firmly. Look at me. Look at me, Ash. Ash's eyes flickered to David's face. Her body was still coiled, still ready to attack. But she was listening. That officer is scared, David said, his voice gentle now. He is scared of you, and fear makes people do stupid things. But he is not actually threatening us. He is just nervous. You know the difference between real threats and scared people. You are smarter than this, Ash's growl faded. Her spines began to lower one by one. Come here, David said. Come to me. Ash moved forward slowly. She pressed against David's side, and he wrapped his arm around her neck. He could feel her heart pounding, could sense the adrenaline still pumping through her system. But she was under control again. Officer, David said without turning around, please lower your hand slowly and step back 3 paces. The officer obeyed. His face was still pale and his hands were shaking. Chief Torvin, David said. That officer almost caused a serious incident. Not because Ash is vicious, but because he showed aggressive intent while holding a weapon. Nightmaws are not mindless killers. They are intelligent pack hunters who respond to threat displays. If your officer had drawn that weapon, Ash would have defended herself and me. That would have been his fault, not hers. Silence filled the cabin. Even Torvin seemed at a loss for words. Dr. Wren broke the tension. Mr. Reeves is correct. I observed the entire sequence. The creature only reacted when the officer reached for his weapon. Prior to that moment, it showed no aggressive indicators. This was a defensive response, not predatory behavior. And the remarkable thing is that the creature stopped its response when commanded by Mr. Reeves. It chose to trust its pack leader over its combat instincts. That level of bonding is extraordinary. The creature is still dangerous, Torvin said, but his voice was weaker now. Ash is powerful, David agreed.
She could hurt people if she wanted to.
But she does not want to. She wants to be safe, and she wants her pack to be safe. That is all. Wren looked at David with something like respect. How did you achieve this bond? The research suggests nightmaws are nearly impossible to socialize after maturity. They are impossible to socialize through force, David said. But Ash was not looking for a master. She was looking for safety. I gave her that. I gave her food, shelter, and respect. I learned her body language and her communication. I treated her like an intelligent being, not a possession. Over time, she decided I was Pack. Everything else followed from that. This is all very touching, Torvin said. He pulled out his own data tablet and scrolled through screens. But I have concerns about your paperwork. There are several discrepancies in your transport permits. David felt his stomach sink. He knew what was coming. Torvin had been looking for an excuse, and now he had one. These permits are for Category 8 fauna, Torvin continued. But nightmaws are classified as Category 9. That is a serious violation of transport regulations. Those classifications were updated last month, David protested. When I filed for these permits, nightmaws were still Category 8. Ignorance of regulation changes is not a defense, Torvin said. I am required to detain any vessel in violation of transport protocols. Your ship is grounded pending a full council review. The creature will be transferred to station quarantine facilities until a decision is made. No, David said flatly. Ash is not going into a cage again. You do not have a choice, Torvin said. The station alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship. All their communication devices activated simultaneously. An automated emergency broadcast cut through the tension. Medical emergency. All available personnel report to hospital wing. Critical casualties. Multiple species. Medical emergency. Dr. Wren looked at her device, her eyes widening. A mining ship just docked. Catastrophic decompression during an asteroid operation. They have wounded, including children. The hospital is requesting all hands. Torvin was reading his own device. Security teams are being deployed to crowd control. The mining crew included families from multiple species. This is a major incident. For a moment, the inspection and its consequences were forgotten. David looked at Ash, then at the security officers preparing to leave. In the chaos of an emergency, decisions would be made. Lives would be saved or lost. And somewhere in that chaos, David and Ash would have to decide what happened next. The hospital wing was chaos. David had followed the emergency teams from his ship, leaving Ash secured in the cabin with strict instructions to stay. Now he stood at the edge of the medical bay watching doctors and nurses rush between patients. The mining crew had been hit hard. 17 injured, 12 in critical condition, and 3 children unaccounted for. Station personnel were struggling to manage the disaster. The hospital was designed for routine medical care, not mass casualty events. Equipment was running short. Medical staff were being pulled from other departments. Family members of the injured crowded the corridors, demanding information and getting in the way of emergency responders. David recognized faces from the inspection team scattered throughout the chaos. Dr. Wren was helping triage patients. 2 of the security officers were managing crowd control. Even Chief Torvin was there, coordinating response teams and trying to maintain order. A Quillen doctor rushed past, shouting into a communication device. The child is trapped in the cargo section of the mining ship. We cannot get rescue equipment in there. The structure is too unstable. If we try to cut through, the whole section will collapse. How long does she have? Someone asked. Minutes, not hours. She is going into shock. David moved closer. He had worked emergency response back on Earth before joining the freight service. He knew that tone in a doctor's voice. That was the sound of someone facing an impossible situation. The doctor was showing images on a display screen. The mining ship's cargo section had partially collapsed during the decompression. A young Quillen girl, maybe 6 years old in human terms, was wedged under a fallen support beam. The space around her was barely a meter high, filled with twisted metal and broken equipment. Rescue teams could not fit through the debris. Cutting equipment could not be used without causing further collapse. Remote drones could not navigate the tight spaces. We need someone small and flexible, the doctor was saying. But even our smallest personnel cannot fit through that gap. David studied the images. His mind was already working through possibilities. The space was tight, but not impossible. A human might be able to squeeze through with the right positioning. But a human would take too long. The girl did not have that kind of time. Something else could do it faster. Something built for moving through tight spaces, navigating by scent and low-light vision. Something with the strength to push aside smaller debris and the flexibility to contort around obstacles. David pulled out his communication device and called his ship. Ash, I need you to listen carefully. A soft sound came through the speaker. Ash's way of acknowledging him. I am coming back. We have work to do. Important work. David turned and left the hospital wing. He moved through the crowded corridors, pushing against the flow of people heading toward the emergency. His mind was racing. This was dangerous. If something went wrong, it would confirm every fear the galaxy had about humans and their predators. Torvin would have all the justification he needed to ground the ship permanently and take Ash away. But a child was dying. That fact overrode everything else. David reached his ship and climbed aboard. Ash was waiting just inside the airlock, pacing with nervous energy. She had heard the alarm and sensed the emergency. Her instincts told her the pack was in danger, and being left behind went against everything in her nature. "We are going to help someone," David said. He pulled Ash's working harness from the storage locker. It was a custom piece designed to carry equipment without restricting movement. He had used it before when Ash helped him with salvage operations. "There is a child trapped. You are the only one who can reach her." Ash pushed her head into the harness, letting David secure the straps. She understood work. Work was good. Work meant the pack needed her. David attached a small medical kit to the harness along with a camera unit so others could see what Ash was seeing. Then he led her off the ship and back toward the emergency site. People scattered as they approached. Aliens pressed themselves against walls, some making sounds of fear. David ignored them. He had no time for their prejudice right now. Torvin saw them coming. His eyes widened and he moved to block their path. "What are you doing? That creature should be secured." "That creature is going to save a life," David said. "The trapped child. Ash can reach her." "Nothing else can?" "Absolutely not," Torvin said. "The risk is unacceptable." "Chief," Dr. Warren appeared beside them. Her white coat was stained with blood from treating the injured. "We have no other options.
The child has minutes left.
If this fails, we lose nothing that we have not already lost. But if it succeeds, we save a life." "It is a predator," Torvin said. "You want me to send it toward a helpless, frightened child?" "I want you to let me do my job," David said. His voice was hard. "Every second we argue is a second the child does not have. Make a decision." Torvin's feathers were fully ruffled. His hand moved toward his weapon, then stopped. David could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. The political risk of allowing this, the moral weight of refusing it. The child's life hanging in the balance. "If that creature harms the child," Torvin said slowly, "you will both be destroyed. I will personally ensure it." "Understood," David said. They moved quickly to the docking berth where the mining ship was attached to the station. Engineers had marked the safe approach routes with glowing tape. Beyond those routes, the structure could give way at any moment. David knelt beside Ash and activated the camera unit on her harness. A display screen nearby flickered to life, showing Ash's point of view. "Listen to me carefully. There is a child inside. She is hurt and scared. You need to find her. Bring her this medical kit and protect her until the rescuers can stabilize the structure."
Can you do that?
Ash made a soft sound. She could smell the child already, could sense the fear and pain coming from inside the wreckage. "Go slow. Be gentle. The child does not know you. She will be terrified. Show her you are not a threat." David pointed toward the opening in the collapsed cargo section. It was barely large enough for Ash to fit through, a dark gap in the twisted metal. "Go." Ash moved forward. Her body flowed like water, compressing and stretching as she navigated the debris. The camera showed her perspective. Darkness, twisted shapes, the glint of metal edges. Her breathing was steady, calm. She had absolute trust in David's commands. The crowd around the display screen grew. Station personnel stopped what they were doing to watch. Even the injured who could stand came closer to see. Ash moved deeper into the wreckage. The space became tighter. She had to turn sideways, pushing with her powerful legs to slide through gaps that seemed impossible. Her spines lay flat against her back, making her profile as small as possible. "There," someone said, pointing at the screen. "The child." The camera showed a small Quillen girl wedged under a support beam. Her feathers were matted with blood. Her eyes were closed. One arm was trapped at an awkward angle. "She is unconscious," Dr. Warren said. "Shock, blood loss, possibly internal injuries. We need to get her stabilized before we can move her." On the screen, Ash approached slowly. She lowered her body to the ground, making herself as non-threatening as possible. She was less than 2 meters from the child now, close enough that the girl would see her when she opened her eyes. "Ash, stop there," David said into his communicator. "Do not get closer yet. Let me talk to her." David moved to the opening in the wreckage. His voice would carry through the twisted metal. "Hello, can you hear me? My name is David. We are going to get you out." A small sound came from inside, a whimper of pain and fear. "I know you are scared," David continued. "I am sending help. Her name is Ash. She looks scary, but she is here to help you. She has medicine. Can you open your eyes?" Silence. Then a tiny voice, barely audible. "Monster." The girl had seen Ash. Her eyes were open now, wide with terror. Ash's camera showed the child's face, pale and trembling. "She is not a monster," David said gently. "She is my friend. She saves people. That is her job. Right now, her job is to save you. Will you let her help?" "It will eat me," the child whispered. "No," David said. "Ash does not eat people. She protects them, especially children. She thinks you are part of her pack now, and she protects her pack." "What is a pack?" "A family. Ash thinks you are family. She will not let anything hurt you." The child was quiet for a moment. On the screen, Ash remained perfectly still. Waiting. Patient. "My name is Senna," the child said. "Hello, Senna," David replied. "Ash is going to come closer now. She has medicine that will help with the pain. The medicine is in a pouch on her back. Can you reach it?" Ash moved forward slowly. 1 step, 2 steps. She stopped right next to Senna, her massive head level with the child's face. Up close, the size difference was shocking. Ash could have swallowed the child in one bite. Instead, she lowered her head and made a soft rumbling sound. Not a growl. Something gentler. The sound mother nightmoths made to comfort their young. Senna's small hand reached out, trembling. She touched the medical pouch on Ash's harness and pulled it open. Inside were pain medications, antiseptic, and a small injection device designed for multi-species use. "The blue injector," David instructed. "Press it against your arm and push the button. It will help." Senna's hands shook so badly she almost dropped the injector. Ash shifted her position, using her body to brace the child's arm steady. Senna pressed the injector against her feathers and activated it. The medication hissed as it entered her system. "Good," David said. "Now we need to wait. The engineers are working to stabilize the structure. Ash is going to stay with you until it is safe to move you. She will keep you safe." "She is warm," Senna said softly. Her voice was already becoming drowsy as the pain medication took effect. "Night moths have high body temperatures," Dr. Wren said. She was watching the screen with an expression of wonder. "The creature is sharing body heat with the child, preventing shock from setting in further." On the screen, Ash carefully positioned herself so her body formed a protective barrier over Senna. If any debris fell, it would hit Ash first. Her head rested near the child's, and her breathing had slowed to a calm, steady rhythm. Comforting. Safe. "Estimated time to structural stabilization?" Torvin asked the engineers. 15 minutes if we work fast," one replied. "The child may not have 15 minutes, Wren said. "Then we work faster," Torvin said. His voice was different now, urgent but not panicked, determined. The crowd watched in silence as engineers deployed support beams and reinforcement cables. Slowly, carefully, they braced the collapsed section. Every few minutes, someone would call out to Senna, checking if she was still conscious. Each time, the child answered. Her voice was weak but steady, and each time Ash remained perfectly still. A living shield between the child and danger. 14 minutes later, the engineers declared the structure stable. Rescue teams moved in with cutting equipment and medical gear. They carved a path through the debris, opening a route large enough for a stretcher. Medical personnel rushed in, surrounding Senna with practiced efficiency. "The creature," one of them said nervously. "It is in the way." "Ash, back up slowly," David said. "Let them work." Ash withdrew, moving backward through the tight space. She kept her eyes on Senna until the child was blocked from view by the rescue team. When Ash emerged from the wreckage, she was covered in dust and small cuts from the sharp metal. She walked straight to David and pressed against him, seeking reassurance. He wrapped his arms around her neck. "Good girl. You did perfectly. You saved her." The rescue team brought Senna out minutes later. The child was secured to a stretcher, surrounded by medical personnel. As they passed, Senna's eyes found Ash. "Thank you, monster," she whispered. Then she was gone, rushed toward the hospital wing for emergency treatment. The crowd remained silent. Station personnel who had been terrified of Ash an hour ago now stood watching her with different eyes. Some looked confused, others thoughtful. A few even seemed ashamed. Chief Torvin approached slowly. His expression was unreadable. "That should not have worked," he said finally. "But it did," David replied. "Yes," Torvin said quietly. "It did." 6 hours after the rescue, David sat in the medical bay beside Ash while a xeno-veterinarian cleaned her wounds. The cuts were minor, nothing that would scar or cause lasting damage. Ash bore the treatment with patient tolerance, though she kept glancing toward the door as if expecting something. "She keeps looking for the child," the veterinarian said. "Her name was Dr. Prill, a Rinnel with gentle hands and a calm demeanor. Nightmaws form protective attachments quickly. She will worry about the little one until she knows the child is safe." "Senna is in surgery," David said. "Broken arm, internal bleeding, but the doctors say she will recover. The pain medication and body heat Ash provided probably saved her life. Another 10 minutes and shock would have killed her." "Your companion is remarkable," Prill said as she applied antiseptic to a cut on Ash's shoulder. "I have treated many creatures from dangerous worlds. Most are unstable, aggressive, impossible to handle safely. This one is different. She radiates calm. She radiates trust," David corrected. "Ash knows I will protect her, so she does not need to be aggressive. Fear makes creatures dangerous. Take away the fear and you find something else underneath." "Not all humans understand this," Prill said. "I have seen the reports. Humans who keep predators as status symbols, who neglect them or abuse them. Those creatures become exactly the monsters people fear." "Those humans should not have predators," David agreed. "Just because you can form a bond does not mean you should. It requires knowledge, patience, and genuine care. Most people, human or alien, are not suited for it." The door to the medical bay opened. David looked up and saw a Quillen male enter. He was older, his feathers streaked with gray. His eyes were red from crying. Behind him stood a younger female, probably his mate. They both moved cautiously, their gazes fixed on Ash. "Are you David Reeves?" the male asked. "I am. My name is Derwin. This is my mate Kellis. Senna is our daughter." David stood slowly. "How is she?" "Alive," Derwin said. His voice broke on the word. "The doctors say she will heal fully. No permanent damage. Because of you. Because of your companion." Kelly stepped forward. Her feathers were trembling. "We want to thank her. Is that allowed?" David looked at Ash. She was watching the couple with alert interest, her head tilted slightly. "Ash, these are Senna's parents. They are Pack. Do you understand?" Ash made a soft sound. She stood up from the examination table and approached Derwin and Kellis slowly. Both adults went rigid with fear, but neither moved away. "May I touch her?" Derwin asked, his voice barely steady. "Hold your hand out, palm down. Let her come to you." Derwin extended his hand, shaking but determined. Ash moved closer and pressed her muzzle against his palm. Then she did something David had never seen her do with anyone except him. She lowered her head and shoulders in a gesture of submission and respect. The gesture a Nightmaw would give to a Pack elder. Derwin's hand moved to touch Ash's head. His fingers brushed her fur gently, reverently. "You saved my child. You went into darkness and danger to protect her. How can I ever repay such a debt?" "You just did," David said. "You are the first person on this station to touch Ash without fear. That means more than you know." Kellis was crying now. "We were so afraid. We heard the stories about humans and their predators. We believed them. We thought creatures like this were monsters that would kill without hesitation." "Fear is easy," David said. "Understanding takes effort. Most people choose the easy path. We want to change that," Derwin said. He looked at David with an intensity that seemed to fill the room. "I am a senior trade representative for the Quillen Commerce Guild. I have influence in the Galactic Council. I can speak for you when they review your case. I can tell them what I saw today. They might not listen," David warned. "Fear is powerful even when faced with evidence." "Then I will speak louder," Derwin said firmly. "My daughter's life is worth more than politics or prejudice. If the council will not hear reason, they will hear about the Quillen child who was saved by the creature they want to ban. They will see the footage. They will know the truth." Dr. Warren entered the medical bay. She looked tired but carried herself with quiet satisfaction. "Senna is awake and asking for you. All of you, including Ash if that is possible." "Is that medically safe?" Kellis asked. "For Senna to be near such a large creature while she is weak?" "Physically, yes," Wren said. Psychologically, I believe it may be necessary. Senna is experiencing trauma from the accident. She keeps asking if the monster is real or if she imagined it. She needs closure. They moved through the station corridors together. Other aliens stopped to watch. Word had spread about the rescue. Some people still showed fear when they saw Ash, but others watched with curiosity or even respect. David heard whispers as they passed. That is the one who saved the child. I saw the footage. It was incredible. Maybe humans are not as crazy as we thought. Senna was in a private recovery room surrounded by medical equipment. Her arm was in a cast and bandages covered parts of her body, but her eyes were clear and alert when they entered. She saw her parents first, then David, then Ash. "You are real," Senna said. Her voice was soft but certain. Ash approached the bed slowly. She lowered her head until it was level with Senna's face. The child reached out with her good hand and touched Ash's muzzle. "You kept me warm," Senna said. "I was so cold and scared. But you were warm. And you made that sound. The rumbling sound. It helped." "That is called comforting," David said. "Ash does it when someone in her pack is upset. She was telling you that everything would be okay." "Am I in her pack now?" Senna asked. David smiled. "If she protected you, then yes. You are pack. That means Ash will always remember you. If you were ever in danger again and she was near, she would protect you without hesitation. Even though I am not human? Packs are not about species," David said. "They are about loyalty and care. Ash does not see humans or Quillans or any other species. She sees individuals. She judges them by their actions, not their appearance." Senna was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then she looked at her parents. "I want to tell people what happened. I want them to know that monsters can be good." "Not monsters," David corrected gently. "Just creatures who are misunderstood. The universe is full of things that look dangerous but are not evil. Fear makes us see monsters where none exist. Understanding shows us the truth." Dr. Warren had been recording the conversation on her data tablet. Now she looked up with a thoughtful expression. "I have been studying dangerous fauna for 12 years. I have interviewed hundreds of handlers, trainers, and researchers. I have never seen what I witnessed today. The bond between you and Ash is beyond anything in our current scientific understanding. That is because most scientists study creatures as objects," David said. "They measure behavior and biology but miss the individual personality. Every nightmaw is different, just like every person is different. Ash is not representative of her species. She is herself, unique." "I would like to include you in my research," Wren said. "With your permission, I want to study your methods. The way you communicate with Ash, the training techniques you use, the relationship you have built. This information could change how we approach interspecies bonding across the galaxy." "On one condition," David said. "Your research must acknowledge that this is not easy or simple. Humans have spent thousands of years learning to work with predators. We have made countless mistakes, suffered many tragedies, and slowly built knowledge through trial and error. Anyone who reads your research must understand that bonding with a creature like Ash requires dedication, education, and respect. It is not something to attempt lightly." "Agreed," Wren said. "I will make that clear." A soft knock sounded at the door. Chief Torvin entered, looking uncomfortable. He nodded respectfully to Derwin and Kellis, then turned to David. "The Council has requested your presence at an emergency hearing, 3 days from now on the capital world. They want to discuss new regulations regarding humans and Category 9 fauna." "Are they going to ban it?" David asked. "I do not know," Torvin admitted. "The Council is divided. Some members are using today's rescue as evidence that humans should be trusted with dangerous creatures. Others claim it was a dangerous stunt that could have ended in tragedy. You will need to testify and present your case." "Will Ash be allowed to attend?" David asked. "That is being debated," Torvin said. "Some council members refuse to be in the same room as a nightmaw. Others insist that seeing her in person is necessary to make an informed decision." "She goes where I go," David said firmly. "If the council wants my testimony, they accept Ash. Otherwise, they can make their decision without me." Torvin's feathers ruffled. "That is not a strong negotiating position. It is the only position I have," David said. "I will not lock Ash in a cargo hold or leave her behind while I defend her existence. We are a pack. We face this together," Derwin stepped forward. "I will attend the hearing as well. I will bring Senna if she is strong enough. The council needs to hear from the child who was saved. They need to see that their fears are unfounded. That could be dangerous for your political standing, Torvin warned. Going against council sentiment publicly can damage your career. My career means nothing compared to my daughter's life, Derwin said. And it means nothing if I stay silent when truth needs to be spoken. I will testify and I will bring evidence that cannot be denied. Torvin looked at all of them, his expression conflicted. Finally, he nodded slowly. I will inform the council of your terms, and I will be there as well. As a witness to what happened today, you are willing to testify in our favor? David asked, surprised. I am willing to testify to the truth, Torvin said. What I saw today challenged everything I believed about humans and their predators. I was wrong. I will admit that publicly if necessary. My pride is not worth more than honesty. After Torvin left, David sat down in the chair beside Senna's bed. Ash settled on the floor next to him, her head resting on his knee. The room was quiet except for the soft beeping of medical equipment. What if the council decides against us? David asked, speaking to no one in particular. What if they ban human-predator bonds anyway? Then you fight, Derwin said simply. You find another way. You do not give up on family, no matter what the law says. David looked down at Ash. She gazed back at him with those intelligent, trusting eyes that had seen violence and cruelty, but had chosen to trust again. To hope again. To love again. No, David said quietly. I will never give up on her. Senna reached out with her good hand and touched Ash's head gently. The Nightmaw closed her eyes, content. Good, Senna said, because she would never give up on you. 3 days. That was how long David had to prepare his case, to gather evidence, to find a way to convince an entire galaxy that fear and understanding could coexist. 3 days to prove that bonds between species were possible, even when those species seemed fundamentally incompatible. 3 days to save everything he and Ash had built together. David took a deep breath and began planning. He had faced impossible situations before. This was just one more, and this time he would not be facing it alone. Derwin's support, Wren's research, Torvin's honesty, and Senna's testimony would all help. But most importantly, Ash would be beside him, living proof that trust could overcome prejudice, that courage could defeat fear, and that family was not defined by species, but by the bonds forged through shared experience and mutual respect. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity had known for thousands of years. Predators could be friends, monsters could be heroes, and the most dangerous creatures could become the most devoted companions if given the chance to prove themselves. David just hoped 3 days would be enough time to make that lesson clear. The journey to Nexara Prime took 2 days. David spent most of that time preparing his testimony and reviewing the evidence Dr. Warren had compiled. Ash sensed his stress and stayed close, offering silent support in the way only she could. Her presence was calming, a reminder of why he was doing this in the first place. When the steadfast runner entered orbit around the capital world, David stood at the viewport and looked down at the planet below. Nexara Prime was beautiful, a garden world with vast oceans and green continents. No dangerous predators roamed its surface. No harsh environments tested the survival instincts of its inhabitants. It was safe, peaceful, and utterly unlike Earth. The people who lived here had never faced the challenges that shaped humanity. They had never needed to learn the difference between threat and danger, between caution and fear. David wondered if it was even possible to make them understand. The Grand Council chamber was overwhelming. It rose from the center of the capital city like a monument to galactic unity. Inside, thousands of representatives from dozens of species gathered in tiered seating that climbed toward a domed ceiling. Light filtered through crystal panels, casting rainbow patterns across the assembly. David stood in the speaker's circle at the chamber's center. Ash was beside him, calm despite the countless eyes watching her. The Nightmaw had been fitted with a special harness that marked her as a registered companion animal. It was a compromise the council had agreed to reluctantly. The council chairman, an elderly representative from a species David did not recognize, called the session to order. His voice echoed through the chamber with artificial amplification. This hearing will determine new regulations regarding Category 9 fauna and their presence in civilized space. Specifically, we will address the practice of humans bonding with creatures classified as dangerous predators. David Reeves, you have been called to testify. You may begin. David took a breath and started speaking. His voice was steady, though his heart hammered in his chest. My name is David Reeves. I am a freight handler and former wildlife rescuer from Earth. 2 years ago, I found Ash in an illegal fighting ring. She had been beaten, starved, and traumatized. I freed her and gave her a choice. She could leave and find her own path, or she could stay with me. She chose to stay. Since that day, we have been partners. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some species representatives leaned forward with interest. Others sat back with skeptical expressions. I am not here to claim that all humans should keep predators, David continued. I am not even claiming that most humans should. What I am asking is that the Council not make decisions based on fear alone. Ash has traveled with me to 17 systems. She has encountered hundreds of different people from dozens of species. Not once has she shown unprovoked aggression. Not once has she threatened anyone who did not threaten her first. A Quillen Council member stood. We have reports of incidents involving Earth predators. Attacks on station personnel, property damage, public panic. How do you explain these occurrences? Context, David said simply. Every incident I have reviewed involved either neglect, abuse, or improper containment. Creatures kept in inadequate facilities, denied proper care, or handled by people without training or understanding. These were not failures of the animals. They were failures of the humans responsible for them. That proves our point, another council member called out. Humans cannot be trusted with dangerous creatures. Some humans cannot, David agreed. Just as some members of every species cannot be trusted with responsibilities that exceed their capabilities. But you do not ban all members of a species from piloting ships because some are bad pilots. You require training, testing, and licensing. The same approach should apply here. Dr. Wren stood in the witness section. She had been granted permission to present her research findings. If I may address the council, I have spent the past 3 days analyzing data on human-predator interactions across multiple systems. The results are significant. The chairman gestured for her to continue. Warren activated a holographic display that showed statistics and charts. Incidents involving bonded Earth predators occur at a rate of 0.003%. For comparison, incidents involving industrial accidents occur at 0.4%. Traffic violations occur at 2.1%. By statistical measure, bonded Earth predators are among the safest elements in civilized space. But when incidents do occur, they are catastrophic, a council member argued. One attack by a creature like that nightmaw could kill dozens. That same argument applies to shuttle pilots, chemical technicians, and power plant operators, Wren countered. Any specialized role carries potential for catastrophic failure. We manage these risks through regulation and oversight, not through blanket bans. I propose the same approach for human-predator bonds. Derwin stood. He had been waiting in the witness section with Kellis and Senna. The child was still recovering but had insisted on attending. She sat in a hover chair designed to reduce strain on her healing body. I am Derwin of the Quillen Commerce Guild. 3 days ago, I believed as many of you do. I thought humans who kept predators were foolish at best, dangerous at worst. Then my daughter was trapped in a collapsed structure with minutes to live. No one could reach her. Rescue equipment could not fit through the debris. We were going to lose her. His voice caught and Kelly's placed a hand on his shoulder for support. Derwin continued. David Reeves offered to send his nightmaw into the wreckage. I almost refused. I was terrified. But I was more terrified of losing my child. So I agreed. And I watched through a camera feed as that creature navigated through impossible spaces, found my daughter, and protected her with her own body. Senna was unconscious and bleeding. She was helpless. That nightmaw could have killed her with one bite. Instead, she kept her warm, helped her administer medicine, and shielded her from falling debris until rescuers arrived. Derwin's words echoed through the chamber. The assembly was silent, listening. Fear told me that Nightmaw was a monster. Understanding showed me she was a hero. I am asking this council to choose understanding over fear. Not blind faith, not reckless trust, but reasoned evaluation based on evidence, not prejudice. The chairman looked to Senna. Child, do you have something you wish to say? Senna's hover chair moved forward into the speaker circle. She looked very small, surrounded by the vast chamber and thousands of watching eyes, but her voice was clear when she spoke. I was scared when I saw Ash. I thought she would eat me. I called her a monster. But she was not a monster. She was kind. She was gentle. She stayed with me when I was alone and hurt. I do not understand why people want to take her away from David. She is good. Why are good things banned? Several council members shifted uncomfortably. A child's perspective was harder to dismiss than political arguments. Chief Torvin stood. I am Station Security Chief Torvin of Harmony 7. I was responsible for inspecting David Reeves and his night maw. I filed reports recommending the creature be removed from his custody. I believed it was a threat to station safety. David tensed. He had expected Torvin to testify against him, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. I was wrong, Torvin continued, and David's eyes widened. I allowed fear to cloud my judgment. I saw a predator and assumed danger without evaluating the actual evidence. When the emergency occurred, David and his Nightmaw responded without hesitation. They risked themselves to save a child. That is not the behavior of a threat. That is the behavior of protectors. I formally withdraw my previous recommendations and apologize to David Reeves for my prejudice. The assembly erupted in conversation. Council members debated among themselves, their voices creating a wall of sound that filled the chamber. The chairman called for order, but it took several minutes for the noise to subside. This council will now vote on the proposed regulations, the chairman announced. Option 1, ban all human possession of Category 9 fauna. Option 2, establish regulatory framework allowing properly trained and licensed humans to maintain bonds with dangerous creatures. Option 3, maintain current status with no changes. David held his breath. This was it. Everything he and Ash had fought for came down to this vote. The voting process was conducted electronically. Representatives entered their choices into terminals at their seats. The results appeared on the holographic display within seconds. Option 1, 34%. Option 2, 52%. Option 3, 14%. The council has decided, the chairman said. Regulatory framework will be established. David Reeves, you and other qualified humans will be permitted to maintain bonds with Category 9 fauna, subject to licensing requirements, regular behavioral assessments, and adherence to safety protocols. A committee will be formed to develop these standards. You will be asked to participate in this process, sharing your expertise and training methods. David felt his knees go weak. They had won. Not completely, not without conditions, but they had won. However, the chairman continued, this decision comes with serious responsibility. If incidents increase, if evidence emerges that these bonds are unsafe, this decision will be reconsidered. You are not just representing yourself, David Reeves. You are representing all humans who wish to form these connections. Your success or failure will determine the future of this practice. I understand, David said. I accept that responsibility. The hearing was adjourned. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, many stopped to look at Ash. Some kept their distance, still wary. But others approached carefully, asking questions about Nightmaws and human training methods. A few even asked if they could learn these techniques themselves. Derwin and his family approached. Senna's hoverchair moved close to Ash, and the Nightmaw lowered her head so the child could pet her. You did it, Derwin said. You changed the galaxy's mind. We did it, David corrected. Your testimony, Rand's research, Torvin's honesty, and Senna's courage. I just spoke the words. All of you provided the proof. What will you do now? Kellys asked. Go back to work, David said. Continue transporting freight. Continue showing people that Ash is not a threat, and help develop those regulatory standards so other humans can form bonds like ours without facing the prejudice we faced. Can I visit Ash sometime? Senna asked. When I am better? Anytime you want, David said. You are Pack now. Pack takes care of each other. Later, back aboard the Steadfast Runner, David sat in the pilot's chair with Ash beside him. The Nightmaw rested her head on his lap, content and calm. Through the viewport, stars glittered against the darkness of space. We changed something today, David said quietly. Not everything. Not enough. But something. People will still fear you. They will still question why I keep you. But now there is a path forward. Now there is hope that understanding can spread. Ash made that soft rumbling sound, the one that meant contentment and trust. You know what the funny thing is? David continued. They think I tamed you. They think I imposed my will on you and made you obey. They do not understand that you chose this. You chose to trust me, to bond with me, to become part of my pack. I did not tame you. I earned your friendship. There is a difference, and most people will never understand that difference. Ash shifted position, climbing onto the pilot's chair beside David. It was cramped, barely enough room for both of them, but she managed to settle in. Her massive form took up most of the available space, forcing David to adjust his position. She made it work anyway, determined to be close to him. "You are impossible," David said with a smile. "There is a perfectly good bed in the cabin. Why do you insist on being wherever I am?" Ash's response was to rest her head on David's shoulder and close her eyes. David laughed. "Fine, you win. We will sit here together and watch the stars." And they did. Human and Nightmaw, pack and family, sitting in comfortable silence as the steadfast runner prepared for departure. Tomorrow they would begin the journey back to Harmony 7. There would be cargo to transport, routes to plan, and regulations to help develop. But tonight they could rest. David thought about the Council's decision, about the responsibility he now carried for all future human-predator bonds, about the people who would watch his every action, waiting for him to fail so they could say they were right to fear. It was a heavy burden. But David did not carry it alone. He had Ash. He had allies like Derwin and Wren and even Torvin. He had proof that understanding could overcome prejudice, that trust could defeat fear. The galaxy had taken one small step toward accepting what humanity had known for thousands of years. It was not enough, but it was a beginning. And sometimes, David thought as Ash snored softly on his shoulder, a beginning was all you needed. 4 months had passed since the Council hearing. David stood in a training facility on Harmony 7, watching a young human woman work with her rescued Fangari wolf. The woman's name was Rachel, and she had traveled from a colony world specifically to learn proper handling techniques. She was the 3rd student this month, and more were scheduled to arrive next week. "Let him come to you," David instructed. "Do not force the interaction. Trust is earned through patience, not demanded through dominance." Rachel nodded and adjusted her posture, making herself less threatening. The Fangari, a lean predator with silver-gray fur and intelligent eyes, approached cautiously. He sniffed her extended hand, then sat beside her. Rachel's face lit up with joy. "He trusts me," she whispered. "He is beginning to trust you," David corrected. "Trust is not built in a moment. It is built through consistent behavior over time. Every interaction either strengthens that trust or damages it. Your responsibility is to ensure that every interaction is positive." Ash watched from across the training area. She had become something of a teaching assistant, demonstrating proper behavior for the students and their companions. Other animals responded to her presence with instinctive respect. Even the most nervous creatures calmed when Ash was near. Dr. Warren entered the facility carrying a data tablet. She had become the lead researcher for the Galactic Council's new Department of Interspecies Bonding. Her work documenting human training methods had already changed how multiple species approached animal care. "I have the latest statistics," Warren said. "Since the regulatory framework was implemented, 47 humans have received licenses to keep Category 9 fauna. Not a single incident has been reported. The success rate is perfect, so far," David said. "But it only takes one mistake for the Council to reconsider. We have to maintain these standards." "The standards you helped create are working," Wren said. "Required training courses, behavioral assessments, regular inspections, and support networks for handlers. These measures ensure that only qualified individuals attempt these bonds. And more importantly, they educate people about what these bonds actually require." A communication alert sounded. David checked his device and smiled. "Derwin is here with Senna. They are early." "Senna visits every week now," Wren observed. "That child has become quite attached to Ash." "The feeling is mutual," David said. They walked to the facility's entrance where Derwin and Senna were waiting. The child was fully healed now with no lasting effects from her injuries. She carried a bag filled with treats specifically formulated for Nightmaws. "Ash," Senna called out. The Nightmaw's ears perked up at the sound of her voice. She patted over and lowered her head so Senna could hug her neck. "You spoil her," David said with mock seriousness. "She deserves to be spoiled," Senna replied. "She is a hero." Derwin smiled at the interaction. Senna convinced her school to do a project on interspecies understanding. She gave a presentation about Nightmaws and how they are not monsters. Half her class wants to meet Ash now. "That is progress," David said. "Education is how we change minds permanently. Fear is taught, but so is understanding. If children grow up knowing that predators can be friends, they will carry that knowledge into adulthood." Speaking of education, Derwin said, the Commerce Guild has approved funding for 3 more training facilities. 1 in the outer colonies, 1 near the core worlds, and 1 on a Quillan planet. We want humans to share their knowledge about Earth fauna, and we want other species to learn these methods for creatures from their own dangerous worlds. David's eyes widened. Other species are interested in bonding with predators. Your example has inspired curiosity, Wren said. Several species are reconsidering their relationships with dangerous fauna from their homeworlds. They see what humans have achieved and wonder if similar bonds are possible for them. Your methods are being adapted for non-human handlers. This is expanding beyond what any of us anticipated. A group of alien visitors entered the facility. They wore identification badges marking them as members of a Rinnell scientific delegation. The lead researcher, a small female with nervous movements, approached David. "Are you David Reeves?" she asked. "The one who saved the Quillan child?" "I am. And this is Ash. She is the one who saved the child." The Rinnell looked at Ash with a mixture of fear and fascination. "My people have no dangerous predators on our homeworld. We are prey species by evolution. Everything in our instincts tells us to flee from creatures like yours. But we watched the footage of the rescue. We saw what you and your Nightmaw accomplished. And we realized that our instincts, while useful for survival, may be limiting our understanding of the galaxy. That is a profound realization," David said carefully. "We would like to learn from you," the Rinnell continued, "not to keep predators ourselves, but to overcome our instinctive fear. To see creatures like yours as individuals rather than threats. Can you teach us that?" David thought about the question. Teaching humans to bond with predators was one thing. Teaching prey species to overcome millions of years of evolutionary programming was something else entirely. But if it was possible, if understanding could spread even to species whose survival had always depended on fear, then perhaps real change was happening. "I can try," David said, "but you need to understand that fear is not your enemy. Fear keeps you safe. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to balance it with reason, to recognize when fear is appropriate and when it is not, to give yourselves the choice to evaluate threats individually rather than categorically." The Rinnell delegation stayed for 2 hours, observing the training sessions and asking questions. By the end of their visit, several of them had cautiously approached Ash and touched her fur. Their hands shook and their instincts screamed at them to run, but they did it anyway. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. As evening cycle approached, David and Ash returned to the Steadfast Runner. The ship was docked in the same berth it had occupied months ago, but the atmosphere was completely different. Station personnel no longer avoided him. Some even waved as he passed. The dock workers had stopped whispering when they saw Ash. David prepared a simple meal and ate while reviewing the next day's schedule. More students were arriving. More facilities needed to be inspected. The committee developing regulatory standards wanted his input on several policy proposals. His life had become busier than he had ever imagined, but it was good work. Important work. Work that made a difference. Ash finished her own meal and wandered into the sleeping cabin. David heard the sound of her climbing onto the bed, her weight making the frame creak. He smiled and followed a few minutes later. The bed was small for a human. It was ridiculously inadequate for a human and a 200-kilogram Nightmaw. But Ash had claimed her spot, sprawled across most of the mattress with complete disregard for space management. David looked at the tiny sliver of bed left for him and laughed. "You are impossible. You know that, right?" Ash opened one eye, looked at him, then closed it again. Her tail thumped once against the mattress. An invitation. David climbed onto the bed, arranging himself in the small space Ash had left. It required creative positioning, and he ended up half leaning against her side. But it was warm and comfortable in a way that solitary sleeping had never been. "They still laugh about us," David said quietly. "Did you know that? The galaxy tells jokes about humans and their pets, about how we bring predators into our homes and let them sleep in our beds. They think we are crazy." Ash shifted positions slightly, making room for David to get more comfortable. Her breathing was steady and calm. "But they are starting to understand," David continued, slowly, "one person at a time, one interaction at a time. Senna understands. Derwin understands. Torvin understands. Wren understands. Rachel and her Fangari are building understanding. Those Rinnell scientists took the first steps toward understanding today. It is spreading." David closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of Ash's body against his. Outside, the station hummed with activity. Ships docked and departed. Aliens from dozens of species conducted trade, pursued research, and lived their lives. And somewhere in that vast galaxy, attitudes were changing. Fear was being challenged by evidence. Prejudice was being confronted by proof. It was not happening quickly. Change never did, but it was happening. You know what I think? David said. I think the galaxy laughed at humans for keeping predators because they did not understand what we understood. Earth taught us something that garden worlds never taught their inhabitants. Earth taught us that the line between predator and friend is not fixed, that danger and devotion can exist in the same creature, that the most powerful beings can also be the most gentle when they choose to be. Ash made that soft rumbling sound in her sleep. Contentment and trust and love all combined into one simple expression. We did not tame predators, David continued. We offered them a choice. We said, you can live alone in the wild, following your instincts and surviving through strength, or you can join us. You can be part of something larger than yourself. You can have security, companionship, and purpose. And in exchange, we will offer the same. We will protect you, care for you, and treat you as family. David thought about all the humans throughout history who had made that offer to animals, who had seen creatures that others feared and wondered, what if? What if we tried to understand instead of destroy? What if we looked past the teeth and claws to see the individual underneath? Those humans had been called crazy too. They had been laughed at, ridiculed, and warned against their foolish choices. But they had persisted, and through their persistence they had changed the relationship between humans and animals forever. Dogs, cats, horses, birds, and dozens of other species had become humanity's companions because some human, somewhere, had chosen understanding over fear. Now that same choice was spreading across the galaxy. Other species were beginning to learn what humanity had known for so long. Fear was easy. Understanding took work. But the rewards of understanding were worth every effort. They laughed at us, David whispered. They laughed at humans keeping predators. They said we were broken, that our survival instincts were damaged, that we did not understand danger. But they were wrong. We understand danger perfectly. We just also understand something they are only now beginning to learn. The most dangerous creatures can become the most devoted friends if you are willing to earn their trust. Ash's breathing deepened as she fell into deeper sleep. David adjusted his position one final time, finding a comfortable spot against her side. This was home. Not the ship, not any particular place or planet. Home was wherever Ash was. Home was this bond they had built through patience, respect, and mutual trust. Thank you, David said softly, for choosing me, for trusting me, for letting me be part of your pack. I know you could have walked away that day in the fighting ring. You could have left and never looked back. But you stayed. You gave me a chance to prove that not all humans are cruel, and I have spent every day since trying to be worthy of that choice. The station lights dimmed to night cycle. The sounds of activity faded to quiet background hum. And in a small sleeping cabin aboard a freight hauler named Steadfast Runner, a human and a nightmaw slept peacefully together. Predator and prey by evolutionary classification, but family by choice. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. More students to teach. More prejudices to confront. More work to prove that understanding was possible between all creatures, regardless of their origins or instincts. But tonight David could rest. Tonight he could be grateful for how far they had come and hopeful for where they would go. The galaxy had laughed at humans keeping predators, but the laughter was fading now, replaced by curiosity, respect, and slowly growing understanding. Change was happening. Not everywhere. Not for everyone. But enough to matter. Enough to give hope. David's last thought before sleep claimed him was simple and profound. They had not just saved Ash's life when they freed her from that cage. They had saved each other. And in doing so, they had shown the galaxy something it desperately needed to see. That fear could be overcome. That trust could bridge any divide. And that family was not defined by species, but by the bonds forged through shared experiences and mutual devotion. Ash shifted in her sleep, moving closer to David. Her massive paw rested on his chest, a gesture of protection and affection. The nightmaw who had once been beaten and afraid was now confident and content. The human who had once been alone was now part of a pack. Together they had changed the galaxy's mind about predators, and in doing so, they had proven what humans had always known deep in their hearts. The most dangerous creatures can become the most devoted companions. You just have to be brave enough to offer them trust first. The galaxy was still learning that lesson, but they were learning, and that was enough. For now, it was enough.